You're watching Chilly Boy Productions. I'm Larry Chilly Boy Chilson, and this is our ranking of every Disney Pixar sequel. And as you can see today, I'm joined by my friend Rachel. Hi, Rachel. I'm actually here in Salt Lake City for Fan X for the weekend. So obviously I had to come stay with my friend Rachel. And what would we talk about other than animation, right?
Yeah, of course.
And we thought it would be fun since here we are, 2024, a Disney Pixar sequel just became the highest grossing animated film of all time. It's also the highest grossing movie of 2024,
Yeah.
holding off Deadpool and Wolverine and everything else in its path. We could talk about Disney Pixar sequels and prequels because every now and then they like to sneak a before in to the ranks as well. But we have 10 movies here on our list. I think, unlike DreamWorks, Pixar doesn't really have the track record of sequels that are better than the originals. I think they
Yeah.
have solid sequels. They have good sequels, even some great sequels.
Yeah.
Not many clunkers. They have less clunkers than DreamWorks, but they
I think
also don't
because they have that brain trust that just like gets these movies, the originals, down to this like point perfect, kind of thing. At least they used to. And so they don't need that polishing that I think the ideas, that maybe takes a couple swings at it at DreamWorks to get to really nail it.
So how we're going to format this is we are each going to give 3 of our picks at a time. So 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8,
Yeah.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And then we'll both give our number one favorite Pixar sequel of all time. So Rachel, why don't you kick things off with your first 3?
So my number 10, I have Cars 2. I can have some fun with it, but so I don't hate it as much as some people. But yeah, I have it at 10. It's bonkers. My number 9 is Lightyear. It's the most forgettable of these. And then my number 8 is Cars 3.
Well, we have the exact same 10, 9, and 8. I also have at number 10, Cars 2. I like Mater in his doses.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Cars franchise by any means. I'm a NASCAR fan. So obviously I was a little bit more, apt to forgive with the Cars franchise.
Fun, like just with the insaneness of it. Like the fact that they have a Pope car. So what do they have? Jesus car? Like what in this world? There's a Jesus car.
It's crazy. But the story is an absolute mess. It's definitively the weakest. It's not particularly all that close.
Yeah.
At number 9, I also have Lightyear. The animation's okay, but again, the story is just very weird and not
weird.
needed. This is the definition of why does this exist?
Yeah.
Why
If it
is
had
this
just been
here?
like generic spaceman movie, then it might have been more acceptable. But any attempt to tie it back to Toy Story was
Oh
a
gosh,
complete
that
misfire.
big father reveal in the it was
Cringe.
horrible. Like it was
When we
really
already
terrible.
know Buzz's father.
It was really crazy. Like I couldn't believe it.
Emperor Surrogate is Buzz's father.
And then
We
they're
know.
like, just kidding. It's actually just you from the future. Like, oh god, the
So
whole thing.
stupid.
And then the explanation of this being the movie that Angie
I
watched.
know.
It's like, what? No, the whole thing was just for them to dare blame and not want Riley to be a little bit gay because of a 2-second kiss in this movie or a 2-second moment.
Yeah.
You had a lot more problems going on in Lightyear to be worried about something that was on screen for a second.
Yeah. The only really memorable thing, and it's not even that memorable, is the
The
cat.
cat.
Yeah, the cat.
Yeah. This is the best part of the movie. And then Cars 3 at number 8. I enjoy Cars 3 actually quite a bit. I really enjoy the story. It feels very full circle from the first movie. It caps off the trilogy quite nicely.
Yeah, some good car like action.
And we're back.
scenes.
Yeah, we're back from this weird espionage to car racing. We're back to like the roots of what this series started as. And yeah, I liked Cruz. I thought she was a nice new character to
Yeah.
hand the reins over to and be the young new driver. So I like it. It's just not as good as the other
Yeah.
seven on this list.
Agreed. Well, so my 7, 6, and 5. At number 7, I have Incredibles 2. Number 6, I have Finding Dory, and number 5, I have Monsters University. And
Mm.
we did a whole episode, me and Stanford talking about Monsters University and how I felt like it was pretty underrated. I think just like the fact that you have a movie for kids telling them the truth that like your dream might not work. You may work harder than everybody else and still not actually be right. Like because like I can this movie. And so I think it's kind of underappreciated for that reason alone is that it's a pretty ballsy movie for a movie for families. And it gets kind of lost in the scare games, those kind of take over. But I still think overall it's entertaining and funny, and it just has at the core this like very unique journey for Mike. And so I think it could be a really good conversation starter for families and for kids.
At number 7, I have Incredibles 2. It's one that I liked more initially, and I still enjoy, but not as much as I think I initially did. I do really enjoy the ideas of family that are explored in this film still, and like working family and the family
Yeah.
unit. But I think there's a lot that it just doesn't do quite right. This is actually the stretch of films that is the legacy sequels, the long awaited
Yeah.
sequels, like sequels to classic, beloved Pixar, The Incredibles. We had been begging for a sequel for decades before they finally gave us this one. And it's good, just nowhere near the original.
Yeah, and I like Bob, like, learning to be Mr. Mom, and I think
Yeah.
that that's
Yeah.
entertaining,
It's
and,
good.
it's just, not as good as these other ones.
And then at number 6, I also have Finding Dory. So I really love some aspects of Finding Dory. Obviously, baby Dory is one of the cutest things I've ever seen in my whole entire life. When she's just like this little
So
baby
cute.
with those big ol' eyes is so cute. And everything to do with like her personal story, I think is really good. I also really enjoy these like new characters, like the octopus and the whale. The third act just gets a little bit bonkers, like driving cars and all this kind of mess. Like once we get onto this, that whole third act
Yeah,
just gets
it's
a little bit
true.
off the
That
rails.
that was very, like that was a very of this era of always having animals driving cars in animated films. There were, like, a ton in a row that were like
And it's like, okay, if we establish it like bad guys from DreamWorks, if they're like personified animals, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Not this, not like a fish, a literal fish and octopus in a world with human beings where they're being held captive in an
Right.
aquarium. You're like, what is going on? They're driving a semi down the freaking highway.
Yeah, I guess I'm for, like, Over the Hedge, and there were just, like, a ton of movies that animals ended up driving cars.
It's crazy. But that's really what, like, bumps Finding Dory down a little bit for me, but everything to do with her story, personally, I think is really good.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, at number 5, I also have Monsters University. I fully agree with you, I really enjoy Mike's story in this film. I think that's really the heart. Sully as well, he's there, but it's really kind of Mike's story and him kind of having to come to acceptance and it's something that most of us have to do in life. We want to be something that is just not in the cards for us, and you have to learn how to live with that and how to make connections and make your life amazing. Nevertheless, even if you weren't born 7 foot to be a basketball player or whatever the case might be,
Yeah.
and it's just like the fate that you were handed. And so often, like you said, movies focus on, working hard and, grinding. You can make any dream come true. Being a dreamer can make it happen. And to have a story aimed at kids, particularly, that's a little bit more, on the realistic side of things was really refreshing. And I think it's fun. I think the games are fun. The whole frat scene is fun. And it's just a good time of
Yeah.
overall.
All right. Well, my number 4 is where I have Toy Story 4. And I know a lot of people really hate this movie, but I like it. I like having our goodbye for Woody and him getting out of this sort of cycle of play and then not play, play and then not play, play and then not play. He realizes that he wants to make a different choice than he makes in Toy Story 2. And so I think it's pretty effective kind of arc for our character, and it has a lot of fun characters. I think it has some good like spooks and some good laughs. And so I really enjoyed it. And then at number 3 is where I have Inside Out 2, which I was very skeptical of how they were going to handle this. I thought the marketing was pretty terrible, and it was a lot better than
Classic
I expected.
Pixar,
Yeah.
terrible marketing.
And I think what was really smart is focusing this on Riley and her friends. And that because during those years, your friend group is so volatile. I remember going through like multiple groups of friends during those years, and either you decide you don't want to be friends with them, they decide they don't want to be friends with you. It goes back and forth, and it's really hard. And so I think kind of focusing on that kind of panic about it was very effective. There are issues. It's not perfect, but I do think emotionally it really rang true and should give a ton of room for conversation and discussion amongst kids, which I think is great. And then I have Toy Story 3 at number 2. And I think that this is an excellent movie. I really love it. I love the ending. I think it's really moving. I do think it gets a little over the top with the incinerator scene. It's just a little much, I think. But I think Lotso's a great villain. I think that Barbie's great in it, hilarious. I love her and Ken, so good. So there's tons to love. Toy Story 3, I think it's great. So that's my number 2.
All right, so this is probably gonna be blasphemous, but at number 4, I have Toy Story 2.
Okay.
A movie I really enjoy. Obviously, it's like pretty high up on my list.
Yeah.
But I've never quite been one of those who put Toy Story 2 right up there with the original. As you see with this ranking, it's actually my least favorite of the Toy Story films. I think there's some great moments here. Pretty much anything with like Jessie, Bullseye, oh, so good. Obviously, getting her backstory so good, and I just love Bullseye always and forever. So it's just the humor mostly in this film that I don't love,
Oh, okay.
and that it bogs it down for me. But I really enjoy the film. Just our least favorite Toy Story. So another Toy Story here at number 3. I have Toy Story 4. Much like you, I really enjoy Toy Story 4. It makes me more nervous because of what you explained that and Woody is coming back for Toy Story 5.
It makes no sense. What are they doing?
So you already did this once, and I forgave it because the movie was good. Because I was
Yeah.
already very nervous. I was like, "Wait, why are we making a movie after Toy Story 3? You already gave us the ending." But they found a way to give us something worthwhile, at least. Even if me personally, as a viewer, I still prefer like Toy Story 3 as an end to it is my ideal ending, but Toy Story 4 gives me an addendum that I like.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it. I love Forky.
Oh yeah,
I
Forky's so
love Forky. Talk about a relatable character. Just jumping in the trash. That's what I love. I also love, once again, it kind of kicked off Disney in a lot of ways, a villain that was very understandable. A villain that was complex. I really enjoyed her journey, this doll who was kind of abandoned, which is obviously very common amongst the Toy Story franchise. But the way they developed her character, I thought worked really, really well. Also, yeah, those little marionette dolls like running around that antique shop were
pretty scary.
Pretty scary. So I think they do a lot right with this film, and it just gets a lot of flack because it comes after Toy Story 3, I think. But as its own film, I think it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
At number 2, I have Inside Out 2. Now, I adore the first film. I absolutely love Inside Out. It's top 5 Pixar for me personally. I think it's great.
Agreed.
So I also was a little bit nervous for Inside Out 2. However, the good thing about this premise is you really could just strike up a sequel, strike up a spin-off and not have it feel forced, because literally any stage of your life you can tap into emotions and deal with it. And I think they did something smart, much like Toy Story did throughout its run, and they aged Riley up pretty close, like in a decent range with the people who watched that first one, so that we could really relate to what she was going through. It's a really relatable story. And obviously a lot of kids deal with anxiety issues, particularly in that age group. Oh shit. People my
Yeah.
age deal with a lot of anxiety. And I think, oh, what a fantastic visual representation of anxiety, particularly that last scene where she just gets out of control and Riley's having that like anxiety panic attack and going through like your usual coping mechanisms. I think is really, really, it's like a visceral actual reaction. It almost makes you want to have a panic attack watching it. You're like feel anxious. I do think Joy's journey is a tad redundant because it's pretty similar to what she has to learn in the first movie. She has to relearn in this one, just with anxiety rather than sadness. But overall, I was really happy with the product they delivered with Riley in the second film.
All right, we're at our number ones.
Number one, I think they're two different movies in the Toy Story franchise.
Yes. So I have Toy Story 2. I get what you're saying. I can see that. For me, I think that this is a very satisfying film as far as Woody coming to decide what he wants at this journey in his life. I guess if you have a life, whatever it is. Yeah, what he wants, and the joy being played with versus being viewed. And I think that Jesse and Jesse's abandonment, the whole story, the song, everything very effective. The introduction of Barbie, hilarious. Jodie Benson voicing Barbie is really fun. And hi Barbie, hi Barbie. And so that's good. And yeah, it's very entertaining. The whole thing with the collector, and we can all relate to that.
Yeah, we definitely can.
The Woody's Roundup and everything going on. So yeah, I have it at number one.
And for my number one, I have Toy Story 3. It got me everywhere it wanted to get me. It got me in all the sucker punch areas. Yeah. I low key love that incinerator scene. It's very dark, but then to have the claw come in is a lot of fun as well. And then the end is just one of the most emotionally satisfying and heartbreaking and devastating ways to end this film that you could. Yeah. It just works. Like it doesn't feel manipulative. It feels authentic. It feels real. We've all come to that point. It's literally like, yeah. And like I said with Inside Out, Toy Story actually literally grew up with us. Yeah. Like the Andy was the same age as so many people. I think I was 1 year older than Andy the entire time. So we were all going through this exact moment in our lives. So I was like, oh my God. My toys, we all ran back. Probably why, Rachel, me, all of us nerds here on the internet have a ton of toys in our midst. Yeah. Toy Story, you've created a generation of hoarders.
Yeah. Even if you're not like particularly attached to your toys, we all grown up. Yes. We all had those moments where it's like, leave childhood behind. And you're moving on, and so I think that no matter what, you can connect with Andy at that moment.
And you get this wonderful, like you said, particularly Ken and Barbie are so fun in this movie. Like getting him showing off his wardrobe is so good. And I love Lotso as a villain. I think once again, Toy Story does very well with their villains and making them sympathetic to a point, and then Lotso is, also despicable. This little bear that smells like fruit, with the big baby. Yeah, it's so good, and it's like pitch perfect to me. It's like it was the perfect ending to this franchise. Then we got Toy Story 4, that was a good ending
for Woody.
And now we're getting.
And then we got whatever Lightyear was, and
Toy Story 5, Woody's story, and everybody else, they're all back. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm very nervous. Yeah. They're gonna have to do a lot of legwork to win me over to this idea of another Toy Story film. I'm like, you've already ended it very well 2 times. Oh, I know money talks, but okay.
I agree.
But those were our rankings for the Pixar animated sequels. As you heard, we were very similar with our rankings, just a few here and there that were a bit different, but by and large, pretty common consensus here for our 2-person panel. Let us know if you agree, disagree. Most importantly, we want to see your rankings. How would you rank all 10 of the Pixar sequels? Leave those either in the comment section down below, or you can hit both of us up across social media. Rachel, where can the folks find you?
So you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over the place, and at rachelsreviews.net. And you can read my written reviews, and you can also find me at Hallmarkies Podcast all over there as well.
Yeah, so make sure you go subscribe and follow Rachel, especially if you are a big animation fan. She is a self-proclaimed animation junkie.
Yes.
So make sure.
And I did fairly recently, before Inside Out 2, did a whole Pixar ranking episode of my podcast with Lassie Vote. And so that was really fun. So if you want to hear more of the non-sequels, then check that out.
Yeah. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.